Sure.
We don't have any slides. So this is going to be me telling Eitan that he's
The rest of the people.
And this is going to be me explaining to you how Ichiro's nuts and you shouldn't listen to him.
We get to project that on their face.
That's not what I was wondering.
Yes, that would be
There's
awesome.
not
enough to drink to deal with that.
Let's try.
Just stand right here.
Yeah, it's like a bad
So the main thrust of what we want to talk about is we're going to try to focus on business side stuff, because we're guessing that most of you guys spend a lot of your time dealing with making games and thinking about making games, and probably not as much time dealing with biz side stuff. So with that.
Okay, so we're going to have 4 points, right? Number 1, team company size. We're not really that far on the opposite spectrum, opposite side of the spectrum, right?
Yeah, if you consider the wrong side far from the right side.
Second point is contract work versus your own projects. Eitan at Firehose does a lot of contract stuff. We at Dejobaan do exclusively our own IP. Number 3 is what kind of partnerships we're making. I guess this is like Sony is great, Google is great, and Steam is great, Apple is great. And then finally, we're going to ask you guys to commiserate about our biggest risks and figuring out how we've magically mitigated them.
No. We're going to talk about, so the last point, we're going to talk about 2 things. One is kind of what our big risks are that we face and what keeps us awake at night that we're worrying about. And what stuff, that's not as big of an issue for us anymore, but it might be for the other guy or it might be for some of you. That's better.
I like that you're even arguing about what you're going to argue about.
It's not point about that.
All right, so company size.
All right.
You want to start?
Dejobaan Games is a very small company. I work out of a home office. I am reasonably successful by MD standards. I have a team of about 8 people at any given time. My contention is, of course, that I am in it for creativity and personal profit. I'm not in it to build a large company. I'm not in it to build a game that requires 50 people to do. Whereas I think Eitan looks at things a little differently. The wrong way.
So at Firehose, we're not in it quite as much for personal profit. We recently had a survey that we sent around, and 2 of the more important things that kind of came up from Firehose were that we want to be able to work with awesome people, and that we want to be able to work on projects that are exciting to us. And so to do that, sometimes you need to have other people around. Like when you're a small 1 or 2 person shop, you can focus on whatever you want to make and there's nothing else going on, there's no constraints. But when you have other people around, it kind of forces you to get the game done, and there's people you can learn from and be excited about working with. So we've kind of been on a binge lately where we're trying to find really, really hyper-talented people and just figure out a way to bring them on. And financially, that's risky, right?
Because I think financially that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
How many of your projects are your own IP, and how many are contracts for other people?
It's like 40% us, 60% other people's stuff.
Okay, 100% of Dejobaan stuff is our own IP, and I think the reason we are able to do that is because we put together these little dream teams of people, right? Indies who are super talented, like Elliot, right, will come in and we'll work on a project-to-project basis, and then we'll split apart after that.
And I think the reason you're able to do that is because you have a pile of money from your other games.
Yeah.
And that's really helpful when you want to bring people on to work on whatever you want to do. But when you don't have a pile of money, I think it's much better, and this is getting to the next point, to go and make sure that you're finding that pile of money. So that way you can afford to pay yourselves. Basically, we don't believe in the whole concept of starving artist game developer. It's something that we started off doing when Firehose got off the ground, and that was well and good for when we were getting started, and we have no desire to do that anymore. And so nowadays we do things like taking on contract work and working with publishers on certain games because we want to make sure that we can pay ourselves and kind of make a living while we do this stuff, because otherwise things feel kind of like they're falling apart.
Let me ask a question. Show of hands, everybody here who is doing anything indie-wise. Put your hands up if you're doing anything indie-wise. Keep your hands up, okay? I want you to put your hands down if you're a starving artist, okay? 2 people. No.
Ours are.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Did anybody put their hands down? Okay, Jason put his hand down.
Okay, so I think half the people put their hands down.
No, I think you're lying.
You should have asked me 4 months ago.
Right? My contention is that none of my team is a starving artist, and I don't think we are sitting on a pile of money any more than Firehose is, but there are certain ways you can mitigate that, right? I think there are people coming into the industry who are a share who maybe do not have the same salary requirements as people who are in their 40s and have 2 children.
We don't actually employ anyone in their 40s with 2 children with crazy salary requirements. You have 2 kids, but you're not in your 40s and you don't have crazy salary requirements.
Off.
No, that was to Eitan.
You can't afford to, right? Like,
No,
I mean, that's like the indie thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's kind of like how it is. And so, contract work isn't just about getting money. There are other benefits to contract work as well. One of the big ones that we found at Firehose is you get to learn on someone else's dime. The first bit of contract work that we ever did was Dance Central, which Jason and Ethan both worked on. And it was really nice because it taught us kind of how to work together as a team and how to get a more polished, finished thing together that we could present to other people. And that was really important when we were making Slam Bolt Scrappers. If you look at the prototypes of Slam Bolt Scrappers before and after Dance Central, they were night and day different because we knew how to do a better job with that. So contract work has other benefits beyond just getting money in the door, although that's certainly the biggest one.
I feel like I'm being more of an asshole than you are.
Oh, well, you should,
Can we up the asshole?
Sure.
Can I?
I could be more of an asshole. You asked for it,
Yeah, I
right?
did.
Okay, so Ichiro's able to employ all these people and work on his own stuff because Ah made lots and lots of money because he was at the right place at the right time with Steven Promotions.
Okay, and I'm saying that that's actually true over the course of my entire company, right?
Okay. So the lesson there is if you're lucky, you can.
No. The lesson is to make your own money, right? Every game, like for example, we partnered with somebody called Novit, right? On the Novit Falcon, it's this little haptic device that you put on your table, and nobody knows about it because it failed. But they were looking for games. We had games. We talked to them and said, you want to license our games? And they said yes. Rinse and repeat for every single one of our games, right? Yes, Valve was there for one. Apple was there for another. Somebody is going to be there for our next one, and so forth. And I would argue that not everybody is as good, is as lucky as you are.
I'd rather be lucky than good.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, you've led sort of a charmed life. How many people here can get a contract from Harmonix to work on their next huge Connect game?
At the time, we actually, so I think this is okay to talk about. At the time, we didn't get the contract to work on the next huge Connect game. We got a contract to work on something that nobody but one person at Harmonix really wanted, and that they thought was going to die, and they weren't willing to spend cycles on themselves. And basically, by working on it and making something decent, they started coming around to a way we should make it. But when we started, there was huge amounts of resistance to the project, and people thought that it was just, they were basically throwing it to us so they could just shut up one of the founders.
Yes. So tell me, Eitan, along with Awe and our work with Novint and our future work with the Portal 2 launch, would you say this is an example of a company getting lucky because of the work of its founder?
Yeah, all right, you make your own love. Fine, I'll give you that one.
And I don't know if this is helping anybody. I mean, the whole point is to give 2 sort of different viewpoints on how you guys might make your studios be, as mediocrely awesome as ours are.
You strive like us, you too can be mediocre sometimes.
I don't mean to interrupt, but have either of you ever had any business with, for starting a company getting government grants?
No, but you do a lot of DoD stuff.
Actually, no, I can speak to that a little bit. So, boy is it tough. Move to Canada, let's start there. If you really want government grants, there are really nice grants in Europe and Canada which are not available to American citizens, but are if you're some other things. So if you have another nationality, that's really nice.
Kurt Schilling.
So Kurt Schilling is a straight outlier. So there's a good story. We actually tried to get the same grants as Kurt Schilling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had RIDEC, which
Not
is
the
the
same
Rhode Island
size.
Economic Development Center, had 125 million they were willing to give out to game companies. They gave 75 million to 38, and then they had 50 more, and we were like, ooh, we want to taste. And so I went down there and I was like, you gave them 75, how about 4 for us? That was pretty much my sales pitch. Look, we caused like a 20th of these guys.
And that's your problem, right?
Yeah.
You gotta ask for the whole 75.
Well, they didn't even have 75. 125 minus 75.
Yeah, I know.
Forget it.
I know.
Anyway, it didn't work. Government grants in the US sadly don't really work very well. You can find government funding, especially if you're doing something in the serious game space, but then you're making serious game stuff, and that's a whole other conversation, so I'm not going to go there.
Should we talk partnering?
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to be a contentious point, except don't go PSN or do anything Eitan says.
So I guess one big difference is that like our partnership with Sony involved a upfront royalty payment, which was at the time very concerning to us because they were basically going to take the lion's share of the royalties on the game and give us some money up front, which we needed to finish the game, and we were like, oh my god, we're giving up all our royalties. And then it turned out that the PlayStation Network got hacked right after launch, and like it turned out to be a good deal. So the moral of the story there that I can tell you is that $1 today is worth like $5 tomorrow. Like, money today and money in the future are not the same thing. And if somebody's offering you money right now, and like they're taking out money from your future stuff, from royalties, make sure that you're not comparing them 1 to 1. Like 2 to 1 or 5 to 1 is a better comparison. Because like having money lets you like live and do things and make games you want to make, and not having money sucks.